Hi everyone, Gretchen here. Um, we're going to do our quilt cards tonight. We're going to do this long one first so you can get that out from your kit. And then I would suggest, I don't know how well the kit's traveled, so the strips may be in order, they may not. If they're kind of jumbled up a bit, you might find it easier to just spread them out so then you can see which one I am referring to. You don't actually have to put them in the same order as I did, but if you wanted to follow my order and you wanted to be able to find the right one, it might be easier just to spread them all out like I'm doing here, so then you can find them when I mention them. And I'm putting them in the order I have them on the card here. It was easier for me to cut the kits if I had them all in the same order and could measure them. So I stacked them that way, but like I said, they probably didn't stay nice and neat and stacked as they traveled their way to you. So I hope everybody's doing well. It doesn't seem like it's been too long since our last class, but yet there's been a lot going on, so in that way it seems like it's been a little while. I think everybody's cards should be scored on this kit. I know I was making both these kits and the Easter card kit, so I think they're both scored actually. Okay, so this technique is really fun, and I've wanted to do a class with it for a while, but I wasn't finding the right paper collection. And then there is one out right now that I like it close to my heart, but I couldn't get it in time. So this is actually not close to my heart paper. It is from the paper shop, which is at Hobby Lobby. I don't know if it's available anymore because I don't shop at Hobby Lobby anymore. I got this a long time ago. So, but this is a technique that can be done with any paper collection, and you don't even need a paper collection. You can use your scraps. If you as you're making cards or layouts or whatever your projects and you have scraps left over, you can all save them, and a lot of them will coordinate. Or just like in quilting, because we call this a quilted card technique. Just like quilting and leftover fabrics, you can get as scrappy as you want. You could use a collection like this that coordinates, or you can use lots of different scraps from a lot of different sources. But I am going to say what I think in the end makes one of these cards is using not only the different colors, and as you can see, we're using different widths of paper, but using different textures as well. So you have the regular printed fabric, sorry, papers, but like this one here, it has a metallic stripe to it on the diagonal. This one is a solid pink. And then of course we've got our glitter paper, or shimmer trim. And you can see on the finished card that I really think those different textures are what um, really makes the look of it, you know. Um, so what we're going to do is we're going to make all the cards first, and then you should have in one of your kits, and it's one of the other cards, you have a sheet that has all the flowers stamped. We'll color and cut those out at the end. And we'll do those all at once just to make it a little more efficient. So there are a lot of ways to add your strips to your piece of paper. But you could put glue or adhesive on every single strip, but that gets a little tedious, especially like the skinny ones. You'll need a skinnier adhesive. So, one really easy way to do this is adhesive sheets. Of course, my heart calls them adhesive sheets. So what this is a sheet of double-sided adhesive. It comes 12 by 12, 5 sheets in a pack. And then of course you can cut them to whatever size you want. So this is just a piece of plain white cardstock, and I already put your adhesive on because I didn't want you to struggle with it. It turns out it's really easy to apply, so you shouldn't have any problems with it. But I figured just to make it easy for you in the class, I'd have it already done. So one side of this is a little more like paper, and the other one is more waxy, kind of like what a sticker a backing sheet for a sticker. I'm going to try to take the waxy side off. You can actually take either side off, and you may notice in your pack of your 3 cards, each one has a different side taken off, because when you attempt to separate the layers, obviously you're going to go with the one that comes off. So I am pulling off the one side, and you see that this is, well, you probably can't see, but this is fully sticky. It's a full sheet of adhesive. And I'm going to attach this to the center of my cardstock. And what I did was I cut the adhesive slightly smaller than the cardstock. So you would have, a little border to hold on to as you are working. It's very sticky, so even if you get your fingers in the adhesive, it'll be okay. So what I'm doing is I'm just burnishing this. This is just a large bone folder, but you can use one of your smaller ones. And I'm just burnishing that adhesive into the cardstock. And I already did this on yours, so you're good. And I don't know if you could tell when I was holding it, but it is the backing layer. Both backing layers are thick enough so that when you peel one of them off, it doesn't get all floppy and hard to manage. Of course, the bigger it is, the harder it'll be. But so now we have this on the cardstock. So now we can just take, and you'll need to do this, take the other side off to expose the adhesive. So now we have our cardstock, and you can see, you can maybe see the difference there as the light shines off the adhesive, and then you can see the border around it of the plain cardstock. And there's a wrinkle in there. Doesn't matter, it's still going to stick. And now, as we lay our strips down, you know, we have the adhesive down, and it's really fast and easy to do this, and then we can have all the fun. So I actually, on a card like this, a long strip, I actually start in the center and then work my way out to the two edges instead of working in the corner, because your, you know, attention is going to be more focused on your centerpieces. And also, your strips don't have to be as long on the edges. So sometimes, like, these are all cut perfectly this, you know, the same width because I cut them all for you. But if you're using scraps from your other projects, you're probably going to have different lengths. If they're longer than what you need, you can cut off the excess and then you can use them again as you work your way out, even shorter, smaller pieces. You can see as I cut these all, I cut them in varying widths. Basically, I varied between a quarter of an inch and like an inch and a quarter. And you can, you know, you can use more. The more narrow they are, the more strips you're going to need. The wider they are, the less you're going to need. But it looks great when you vary them, and they don't have to be precise. Like if you actually have leftover strips from a project, you don't have to trim them down at all. You can use them the width they are. Of course, as I'm cutting kits and everybody's is the same, of course, I'm a little more precise. So I'm going to start with this one, which is a floral, and it has that rose gold metallic in it to form the flower, and like this black spot here is the center of a flower. So this is the one I'm going to use first, and I'm going to put this on a diagonal shifting to the right. Now, the one thing you want to make sure of, you want to make sure when you put your strip down, it actually covers the entire height of the card. So you don't want to put it too much of an angle, because if you see I put it at too much of an angle, I have a space down here and I have a space up here. Now we are going to trim a little off each edge, but we're not going to, we're only going to trim like 1/8 of an inch. So I'd rather have overhang. So you can see as I put this down, the strip overhangs both the top and the bottom. Now it just barely, that corner just barely reached the top, but that's fine as long as it overhangs. And I just put it, I didn't put it in a specific spot. I just kind of put it at near the center. And if you'll notice, it actually is a little farther to the right than on my original card. So I will be shifting my strips a little, but that's fine. You do not have to be precise about this technique. Like I said, the only thing you have to be careful about is covering the height of the card. And even sometimes if you miss, you can cut another strip the same width and then just patch it to extend your strip. So I'm going to go to the right first. So the next one I used was this black, the skinny one, black with white stripes. So again, I'm going to put it on my adhesive, and I'm going to put it right next to the first strip. I'm going to butt it up right next to it. And the next is the glitter paper. And I'm just starting a little higher because I want to make sure I covered the full top of my cardstock. And each piece just gets placed right next to the one before it. Now, this next one has a lighter and a darker pink flower with the metallic accents on a black background. Now, you may not have all your strips laid out in front of you, you may be cutting as you go. So that could take a little longer. Or you may have strips cut and go, oh, I want this other one. But if you have them all set, ready to go, you could just put them on, and it's really addicting because you can make more, a ton of cards. And like I said, these are just the perfect width. But you can see, like, if I had a long strip, let me show you, like if I had a long strip that was hanging out, I could cut this and that piece is totally usable on something else. So again, if you're a quilter, and I know many of you are, it's like the same thing as fabric scraps. Like, you think you're using them up, but instead you just get smaller scraps and you want to use them on something else. So the next strip is a pink background with black and white flowers. I did tell you that this collection was from Hobby Lobby, but I think it's Poppy, Pretty Poppy. I'm blanking now. I want to let you know in case they do still have it, because they do still. Pretty as a Poppy is the name of it if you were interested in it. And as you can see, you don't use a lot of paper on these, so if you do buy a paper collection, you can get a ton of cards done. We've got a gray with white polka dots. Even if you just have scraps, you can make a ton of these. And then we've got black with a white branch with the leaves. Now, as you can see here, the amount of paper we need is getting shorter. So we have more paper hanging off the edge. That was what I was talking about for cutting off these pieces and possibly reusing them. And here in the corner, is where I tend to use the wider strips. And that's simply because I don't want a little tiny piece in the corner. So like if I put a narrower strip here, let's just put this one here. So then I'm putting a little tiny piece in the corner. So I'll tend to have a couple of wider strips to cover up that corner area. And so that's why this strip is wider. And this is pink with the metallic accents and a gray and white stripe in the background. And again, when the strip is longer than what I need, I don't want to put it right down in the center, because then I've got, I'm cutting off a small piece at the top and a small piece at the bottom. If I put it down, close to the edge here, when I turn this around, all of this is excess. So this whole strip can be used as something else. So that's a way to conserve paper. If you have a piece that you really love and want to use again, or you don't have much of it left, that's the most efficient way to use your paper. So, sorry, I'm trying to keep the stripes kind of parallel for you. So that covers up, for me anyway, all the way to the right edge. If you haven't reached your edge yet because you put your strip farther to the left, you can go ahead and add more strips, or you can wait until we cover up the left, trim it down, and you can see what's left to fill it in. That's your choice. But now I'm going to work the rest of the card. So the strip I'm going to use next is just a plain, solid pale pink. And you just, when you place these down, you just don't want to leave any space between them. And this is a gray and white diagonal stripe. And as you can see, the adhesive It sticks really great to the adhesive, sometimes a little too well if you're not careful. We now have this black and white flower. Oh, see, I jinxed myself. It stuck a little too well. I've got a little tiny space in there, but not enough to worry about. Okay, and then the next piece I'm going to put on is my black shimmer trim. Now, this is shimmer trim, so unfortunately we do have to take the backing off because although we're putting it down onto adhesive, and we don't really need the adhesive that's on the back of here, if we put it on with our covering on it, it won't stick. So take off your back. And now you're going to have double sticky. And this one, just a little tiny bit more challenging because the shimmer trim curls around the it comes on a roll. So it's a little curly. Next, we're going to have the pink and metallic diagonal stripe. Our white with black pinstripes. And now we're getting shorter again. We have our very narrow, my last strip here is a very narrow pink with the black and white flowers on it and some metallic accents. And then I'm going to have a space in the corner, which I knew was going to happen. And what I intended was to cut the excess off of this strip and then use it on the other corner. So what I'm going to do is turn this over. I'm going to take my scissors and I am going to just cut along the edge of that cardstock. And that's all I'm going to cut for now. And then I'm going to take this large piece that I cut off and I'm going to go ahead and put this in the other corner and cover the other corner. So now the sheet is completely covered. If yours is not, what you can do is turn it upside down if you need to up here, cut some extra strips to cover what's down here, or if you cut off some extras here, you can, cover the other corner, but you should have enough strips. Even if you didn't put them in the exact same spot as myself, you still should have enough paper to cover the whole thing. Hey, Judy. We just finished putting the strips on the first card. So don't worry, I will explain the whole process again as we do the next one. So the magic of this really happens. I mean, it's fun putting the strips down, but this looks a little messy now with all the strips being different lengths. When it really looks amazing is when you trim this down. And you can trim it with scissors, you can trim it with your paper cutter, your knife and ruler. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the edge, all the excess off first, and then I'm going to put it in my paper trimmer to trim it to the size we want. Because like I said at the beginning, this paper is slightly bigger than the piece we need for the card. And I did that on purpose so we had a little wiggle room. So I just turned my piece over and I'm taking my scissors and I'm trimming along the edge of my cardstock. And I'm doing that on all 4 sides. Now, like I said earlier, if you had strips of all different lengths, you probably would have a bunch of pieces that were really long that you can then use again. The only piece I have that's really of a significant size is this one, and that's only because it was cut so wide. And if you're making a whole bunch of cards, I would save that. And I'm just going to put that aside just in case we need it later. We shouldn't, because I should have cut plenty for everybody. But if I was making my cards, a whole bunch of cards, and I had a whole bunch of strips in front of me, that's what I would do. So now you can see how much better it looks now that we've trimmed it and it's got square edges. So beautiful. And I am going to trim mine. And the size we're going to trim it to is, let me just make sure, 8. Does that make sense? Let me measure mine. Even though I measured it when I was writing in the instructions, I want to make sure I give you the right size. Yep, 8 by 3.5. And I'm going to turn aside and cut it on my big paper cutter because my little one won't trim 8 inches. And what I'm going to do is not just trim 2 sides. I'm going to actually take, it's just 1/8 of an inch off each side. So when I do that, the cardstock is 8 and a, here, I'll bring my paper cutter over so you can see. I know you can't see the whole thing, but okay. So it's 8.5 inch wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it at 8 1/8. I'm going to turn it around, and it's 3 3/4. So I'm going to do it at 3 5/8, and then turn again. Basically just keep turning clockwise or counterclockwise, whichever way you start, keep doing that. So now I'm getting down to the 8 and turn it one more time, and I'll trim that at 3.5. So that's 1/8 of an inch off each side. And now I have nice straight edges, which I didn't quite have by doing it with my scissors. And we have our piece. Really quick and easy. After all your strips are trimmed, of course. Okay, so now we can assemble the card, all except the flower. So I'm gonna score my cardstock, and this piece is a little tough because it looks square, but it's not quite square. So you want to make sure you have it on the right side. We're going to put the 8 inch side. It's 8 by 8.5. We're going to put the 8 inch side across the top. We're going to score it 4 inches. Fold that. Varnish the fold. So the first piece we're going to put onto the card is our black panel. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach my quilted panel to the black panel. So put the adhesive on the back of that. So those adhesive strips are not just good for the quilt card, although they are excellent for that. You really could use them for any purpose. If you actually, you could do it the opposite way. You could attach a bigger piece of paper to those adhesive strips, then cut them into strips, and then you have adhesive on every strip. Of course, then you have to peel the backing paper off, which we all know is not all that fun. But it is, maybe it'd be a little tedious for this method, but if you had little strips that you wanted to add to something, that's a great way to add adhesive to them. I've done that before. So our black panel is going to just go centered onto our pink cardstock, and this color is called Mulberry. Oh, and I didn't tell you, but I used the darker side of the cardstock. Sorry about that. But like I said, I think yours are all folded. Then we've got this black strip, and I am just going to add a line of adhesive to that. And I'm putting this across the bottom of the panel. It should be the same width as your panel, 8 inches. And I'm going to put it about a 1/2 inch from the bottom of the quilted panel. And then I'm going to wait to attach the laugh until we cut out our flowers, because then I can, as you can see, it's underneath the flower a little bit. So I want to do that spacing at the same time. So I'm just going to put this aside for now. And for anybody who came in late, what I said was, in one of your card kits, you have a sheet that has all 5 flowers stamped on it. And we're going to color and cut those out at the end and add them to the cards at the end, just to be a little more efficient in making our cards. So that's all we have to do for the first one. I'm going to pause for a minute so everybody can catch up if they need to. Take a break, take a sip of water. These are really, these are really easy cards once you get the technique. Sorry, I keep moving my mat around. The next card we're going to do is the herringbone one, and that's got the 3 flowers on it. Now, I put the panel on my card upside down. It doesn't have a right side or wrong side, but I intended the panel to be this way. So when I make this card, I'm going to do it the way I wanted to do it. So I'm going to hold it I'm going to put it in the camera this direction so you can see it. And then I'm going to shift the flowers over here. But when I picked up my card to put the flowers, I realized, oops. And instead of ripping it apart, I just went with it as it was. So we have our card and our panel. And just like we did before, I'm going to line up my strips so that I can, this one kind of was a more messy pile. Pulling them out of my kit, so yours might be too. So if you just line them up, you'll have an easier time finding them hopefully when I that's for when I tell you which one I'm using next. Everybody do okay on that first card? Okay. So once again, I have my adhesive sheet. For those that came in late, these are a full sheet of double-sided adhesive. They come 12 by 12 in a pack, 5 sheets to a pack. And they are great for this technique and many other things. One side is more papery, the other side is more waxy. It does not matter which side you peel off first. Basically, whichever one you can get going is great. And I put your adhesive on your cardstock for you. Your cardstock is a little bigger than what you'll need for the card, which is why you just saw me trim on the last card. That gives you some unsticky edges, hopefully, to hold on to. And you can see I've got this started and I'm pulling off the backing paper and I'm exposing the adhesive. And so I am just placing it centered on my cardstock. And the backing paper is thick enough so that you can handle it and do that without it flopping around too much. And once I put it on my cardstock, I'm just using my bone folder to burnish it down really well. You want it to stick well, and also the better it sticks, the easier it is to get the other side of the backing paper off. So now you're going to follow me by taking the backing paper off, and you can see and feel that you've exposed the adhesive. By the way, these backing sheets are great to save if you to have a couple around. Like if you had put adhesive on something and then you had to take it off and you needed somewhere to place it quick where it wasn't going to stick. Like say you took the backing paper off of your shimmer trim and you needed to put it down for a minute before attaching for some reason. You're not going to get that little strip of plasticky stuff that you took off back on, but you could stick it here for a minute, or like a sticker, a sticker you took off the backing sheet and you just needed a place to put it. I can't think of a good reason right now, but there's a million times where I have something that has adhesive on it that I need a spot to put it where it's not going to stick to my work surface, or a piece of paper where it's going to rip the adhesive off. It's sometimes nice to have a couple of these sheets around. Okay, so this pattern is called a herringbone pattern. The first strip I'm going to put down is this black one with the white pinstripes. Now, just like on the first one, the important thing to remember is that you want to make sure you cover your paper edge to edge with your strip. And I am going to start at the top. I am going to start in about 1.25 inches. Again, it doesn't have to be precise. I am going to angle it. You can see that I'm angling it to the right. And I am just making sure, let me get this down so I could show it to you, that your angle is going to be determined by, you want it angled enough so that your strip is covering to the edge of your paper. And that's basically the only rule. You just have to make sure that you're covered, your strip covers your paper corner to corner, edge to edge. But if you're angle was a little, more extreme or less extreme, it doesn't matter. In the end, you're it's going to work no matter what angle you use. Now um, the next piece I'm going to put down is this pink and metallic diagonal stripe, and I'm actually going to put this on the opposite side, and this is what creates the herringbone. And what I'm going to do is put the short edge of the strip, I'm going to butt that up against the black stripe and angle it the other way. And you can put it right precisely at the top. You don't have to be quite at the top, but close to it. And now you've created this V. And that's going to help you create, that's what's going to create your herringbone pattern all the way down. And what we're going to do is we're going to alternate. As we go, we're going to do right, left, all the way down. Now I'm going to go ahead and this wider stripe, this white with the metallic on it, I'm going to put this above the black. And just like we did on the opposite card, I'm just butting it right up against the black strip, leaving no space, making sure that it covers the paper from edge to edge. Now I'm going to put this white with the black pinstripe above the pink and metallic strip on the left here. And I almost messed that up. Just put that against. Now that one you're butting short edge against the black strip, and then you're butting the long edge against the pink and metallic strip. And you're working up on these two. Now what I'm going to do is I am actually going to leave these corners empty for now, because these are small areas, and I can use, as we did on the other ones, when we cut off a bigger, a longer strip like this one. This one has a whole lot left I can use. My strip is probably longer than yours because I used an excess strip. Yours are probably all the same, approximately the same width. I can use pieces that I trim off the end to cover those smaller areas. So now we're going to work our way down. So like I said, we're going to alternate, and we started on the right side. So the next piece we're going to do is on the right. And we are going to use this piece of the solid mulberry next. And I used the darker side. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to butt the short side up against that pink and metallic stripe, and the long side against the black with the white pinstripe. And at this point, you shouldn't have to worry about getting off the edge. All your strips should be long enough that it's not a problem. But it's something, if you're cutting your own strips, that's something you'll have to pay attention to. It's always a little better, for them to be a little longer. And then you don't have to worry about that. But like I said, in the last card, if you should happen to find it too short, you could always cut like another piece. Like if it ended here, you could always cut another piece and piece them. You're already piecing all these pieces. One more seam isn't going to matter if you find yourself in that spot. So now we've put on our right piece, we're going to put up on a left piece, and we're going to use This, it's a pink and white flat floral with the metallic accents, and the background is gray. And I'm going to put this on the left side, and I'm going to butt this up against the short end against the mulberry strip, and the long side against the diagonal. Now, you'll notice that, this one was relatively narrow and this one is really wide. It doesn't matter at this point. You do want the varying widths because it makes it more interesting. Again, you want the varying textures. You want solids, you want prints, you want some of this glitter to make it more interesting. But as long as you vary left side, right side, left side, right side, you're still going to get the herringbone effect. Or in quilting, a few years ago, more than a few, I guess now, they called it the French braid technique or design. So our next strip is going to be the gray with the white polka dots, and we're going to put this on the right side, right up against that mulberry strip. And it becomes easier as we go because now we have lots of practice. So next is the black with the white leaves. I find that if I kind of lift it a little bit so I line up the edge of the paper with the previous strip, that helps me a little bit and make sure I don't what am I trying to say? Don't stick it down on the adhesive in the wrong spot before I'm ready. So this is our glitter paper. I want to say this is the Desert Rose glitter paper that I'm using here. So this doesn't have the backing on it, so we can just put it right down. I'm putting this against the gray and white polka dot on the right side. The next piece I have is this gray and white trapezoids with the metallic accent. And I'm going to put this on the left side. The herringbone is just slightly more challenging than the last card, just the stripes, simply because you're lining up both the long side and the top of this. So that's why I did this card second. Work your way up to it. Okay, so the next one is this gray flower with black polka dots on a white background and the metallic leaves. This goes on the right side next to the glitter paper. Oh, and next is going to be our black shimmer trim. And again, this is shimmer trim. So it does have that backing that we have to get off because we want it to stick. This backing paper will not stick to the adhesive. Oh, a little bit, but not long term. I'm worried it'll pop off, so that's why I go ahead and the shimmer trim is just a little trickier to use, but you can do it, and it makes such a difference. So, all right. So now we have this these white kind of design, squarish design, square with corners that taken out of them, on the gray background. I don't know what you would call that design. Doesn't matter, I guess. And now you can see, like, we're really getting some bigger pieces. The strips are really hanging off the edge here. Our next piece is another piece of that solid mulberry. I'm going to put the lighter side up since we used the darker side the first time. Okay, so we still have a triangle here to fill, and our triangles at the top. These are all small pieces, so I'm going to use, I'm going to trim the edges and use pieces I cut off to fill in those spots. Now, I still have this strip, and I could put my strip of glitter paper up here, but I got a lot hanging off here. And even though it's such a small piece, and it's incredibly silly, we don't have to be this frugal. I am going to be that frugal and use the little strip while I can. So as you can see, I just turned over my cardstock. Sorry, I'm trying not to cough and I'm making it worse. Turning it over, and I'm trimming my strips. This is the shimmer trim, so that's sticky, so I just want to get that out of the way. All right, and I'm just got something stuck to it. Trimming along with my scissors along the edge of that cardstock. And already how much better that looks to have, once you start trimming and have the excess, it's amazing the difference between the raggedy edge and the nice straight clean cut edge. So now you can go through your scraps here and you fill up. And I'm going to take that scrap of glitter paper that cut off, that I trimmed off, and I'm going to put that in the top right corner. And I'm going to take my gray with the white polka dots, and I'm going to put this on the top left corner. Now, if your pieces, if you place them different than mine and your pieces aren't long enough, you can go ahead and put whichever piece you like. Or if you like one better than the one I chose, go for it. Put something else down. Go for it. And you can see I still have a little corner. So it probably would have been smarter to put a wider piece of paper up there, but I didn't. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna put, actually I'm gonna put another piece of the pink, the mulberry up there. And then down, we're gonna fill in this triangle down here. So I'm gonna put my pink and metallic stripe. And then I'm going to put my black and white leaf. You can't really see much of the leaf. You could just see it's a black and white pattern. And I'm going to stick that in. Just make sure when you're down here, you alternate it the other way, as we did, you know, right then left. Keep going in the pattern. And now it looks kind of crazy again. So I'm going to go ahead and trim off the overhang. And now it looks beautiful. All right, and now this one is small enough that I can use my small paper trimmer, and your cardstock should be 4 inches wide. So I'm going to take 1/8 of an inch off each side. So I'm going to trim it at 3 7/8. I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to trim it at 5 1/8. Turn it again. We're at 3 3/4, which is what we want our final width to be. And I'm going to turn it one more time, trim the top at 5, which is our final height. And now we have clean, straight edges. If you had made yours bigger and trimmed it more, look at how beautiful that stripe is. That strip of strips. You can actually use that as an accent on something else. So, you know, this is why we never, our craft space is a mess, right? Because we can always use everything over and over again. Okay, so we should have a white card here. It is 8.5 inches wide. The cardstock is 8.5 inches wide by 5.5. So if you had to score this, you would score on the 8.5 inch side at 4 1/4. And fold. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I did that for everybody. We are going to layer our quilted panel onto our mulberry panel, and I used the light side this time. What do you know? I shouldn't have to change my ATG during class today. And I'm just going to put this on centered. And then put adhesive on the back of that. And this time when I attach this to my card, I'm going to pay a little more attention than I did when I was paying this, creating the samples. And like I said, I wanted the point of the herringbone to be at the top. So I'm making sure my card is opening the correct way, and I'm putting my point at the top. Now, I'll show you mine again as soon as I get this down. I ended up making the V's going down. It's perfectly acceptable. You may like it better that way. If you like it better that way, go for it. But now you've got the two different directions, so you can pick which one you like the best. And then we're going to put our black strip on. And we're going to put it on the right side of the card, just on top of the quilted panel, about 3/4 of the way in, or 3/4 away from the right edge. And then we will go ahead and do our flowers after we've created the next quilt. Hope everything's going well. I haven't seen any comments, so I assume, I'll give you another minute here. I assume everybody's working hard. I'm going to just pause for a minute so you guys can catch up if you need to. Hope you're enjoying it. I know it's hard during class because you're always scrambling to catch up, but it really is a fun, and it can be a very relaxing technique. If you've got a stack of panels to cover and a stack of strips to use, it's a lot of fun. I've wanted to, like I said, I've wanted to do this class for a while, and I called this one quilt card strips because I'm going to do a series of quilt card classes in using different shapes of paper. So this is strips, and then we'll use some different shapes coming up. Oh, good, Cheryl. I'm glad you're having a good time. And if you're way behind, don't worry about it. You know, the videos will stay up so you can follow them again as you need to. It's it's probably a little easier and more relaxing if you're doing it on your own because you know, you're just following you've got your pile and you can pick and choose as you want. If you're trying to find the piece of paper I'm telling you to use and put it in the same spot, which, like I said, you don't have to do, but if you are doing that, I understand that it's probably a little more um you know, it's a little more stressful to takes a little more effort to do that. All right, so I am going to put these aside and take out my last card kit. And again, I'm going to lay out the strips. Now, this one is a little different in terms of the strips. You actually have 4 of each paper design. Um, so you can go ahead and make piles of 4. Mine are a little crazy for a couple of them because I was at the end and I used scraps. You also have, you'll have your black card. You have this 1.5 inch square that we will definitely need. So put all your like strips together. Okay, and once again, I am going to go ahead and put my adhesive on my cardstock. Yours is already on there. I'm going to center it on my cardstock. And burnish that on there. Okay, now when you look at the card, you can't see this square, but that's because it's underneath the flower. If you were wondering. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is pull off our adhesive. And then we are going to put on our square. When we put it onto our adhesive, it doesn't matter which side we use, the light or the dark, because you can see on the card, you're not really going to see it. But we want to put it not exactly in the center, but in around the center. I'm going to put it a little bit to the left and a little bit above center. And we're going to put it on an angle. I'm not putting it so that it's on point. so that the points are north, south, east, west. I'm actually just going to put it at a slighter angle. So you see it's a little left and a little above center, just a tiny bit above, but mostly, in the center area. And it's just slightly angled. Not, the points aren't up straight up and down and left and right. I'm not quite sure what this would be called shape-wise. I just called it the square card because we started with our square. So the first paper I'm going to use is the black with the white stripes and the white dots. So it actually doesn't matter which side you start with, but I like to start with the right and work my way around. You're going to line up the short edge of your strip with the top edge of your square and put the long edge right alongside of it. So you've extended the top edge of this square, and then this strip comes down next to it and extends, remember, past the edge of the paper. Now, no matter where you put your square, hopefully your strip is long enough. It should be. I should have cut it long enough. And now we're going to work our way around clockwise. So like I said, it doesn't really matter which side you start on, as long as you place it lining up the top edge, whichever way you're looking at the card, and it comes on the right side. We're now going to use the same paper strip, and we're going to put it along the bottom edge. So we're going to line up the short edge with the previous strip and the long edge with our square and extend it out towards the left. Now you can turn your piece of cardstock if that makes it easier for you. I'm going to do that as we put the next one on. Essentially, I guess we're making really kind of a pinwheel effect. So I'm going to turn this because I find it easier to put it on this direction. And you're going to take another strip the same. You're going to line up the short edge with the previous strip and the long edge with the square. And it extends out past. This is back to the original direction. So this one really extends up. And now we're going to cover up that top edge by lining up the short edge of the strip with the previous strip, the long edge with the top of the square. And we now have, we'll stick with that pinwheel word, that windmill, pinwheel that goes around the square. And that's why we want we want 4 strips of the same paper. That's what's going to give us this effect. Now, you don't have to use them the same. You can try, I actually didn't try it, but you can try all different scraps just like we did on the other one and just pick and go. And I'm sure it'll also look beautiful, but a different effect. So the next the next paper I used was the white with it's a metallic floral, but it's skinny, so you probably can't see that it's a floral, but it's got the metallic accents. And again, from this point on, it doesn't matter which side you start with. I just tend to, start with the same one I just did. But you're just going to go ahead and put your next strip next to each of the black strips. And, like I said, you can turn, if you find it easier, and I do, you can go ahead and turn your cardstock around to place those strips. And you're just going to go around the 4 sides of your pinwheel. This one is almost easier in terms of if you have all your strips cut and you have 4 of each, you don't have to hesitate and think, oh, which one's going to go next, because the next 4, they're all going to be the same. And so a little less thinking, maybe a little less planning. And so our next one is going to be the Desert Rose glitter paper. So again, just butt up your short edge against your black strip and your long edge against the metallic and white strip, and keep working your way around. Now, again, on this one, I varied the width of the strips in terms of each different paper was a very different width, but the 4 strips of the same, like the 4 black ones are all the same width, the 4 white ones are the same width, the 4 glitter ones are the same width, within margin of error, of course, because as we know, cutting narrow strips can sometimes be, cutting wide strips can sometimes be a challenge too, and they're not, you may not always be precise, but in the end, it's going to look similar. So, the black one is wider than the white and the glitter one, and so you still want to keep varying those widths, because that's what makes it makes the final product look more interesting. Okay, so the next one I did was the pink floral with the metallic accents on the gray and white striped background. And now as we go around, you can see, like on the right side, because I put my square a little bit to the left and a little bit above center, the adhesive that's left open, the panel that's left open on the right, is slightly bigger than on the left, and slightly on the bottom than the top. So this one, the areas are going to be slightly different. So there's going to be more strips on the right than there are going to be on the left. But that makes it a little more interesting. And you can see I was using some of my scrappy strips from my samples. So mine aren't perfectly straight like yours, but they are big enough to cover the area. So that's all I needed. Sometimes the strip curls more on one and the other. I find it easier to turn around. So on this one, so I'm at the top here, I'm putting this wide strip on. I've now covered up the whole cardstock and adhesive on the top here. So I don't have to put any more strips up on the top. I'm now down to 3 sides. And at the bottom and the left here, I've only got a little tiny bit of space left. So I'm going to use my gray with the white polka dot. And again, I actually only need 3 of these strips, but I am going to put them on all 3 sides. But this one, you know, I have this whole big strip left over, so I'm going to go ahead and trim that off so I can save that strip for something else. And I'm going to go ahead and put my excess on that side, which now covers up the left side is completely covered and the bottom is covered. So I now only have to add strips to my right side. And I'm going to use my my solid pink, my mulberry. I think I'm going to use the light side here. And now I do have sorry, I was just looking at what I had left. I do still have some leftover or some exposed cardstock and adhesive on the right side here, and I ran out of different strips. So what I can do is I can trim off the excess, or I can go into extra I have from one of my other cards and just cover up that spot. And now hopefully all your sides are covered. I'm going to turn this upside down. I'm going to cut along the edges, cut off the excess. Turn it over and enjoy how amazing the card looks. Or the panel, not a card yet. One more time, we're going to trim this, and we're going to trim 1/8 of an inch off of each side. So let's see here. It needs to be it is 5.5 inches wide. It needs to be 5 1/4. So we're going to trim it at 5 3/8. And on the shorter side, we're going to trim it at 4 1/8. I like to trim off each side because it makes sure your sides are nice and straight and even. And that's why I trim off a little off of each side. If you don't like the 1/8 inch measurements, just make your piece of cardstock and your adhesive bigger, and you can trim off more if you're more comfortable with that. Okay, now I said that we've got to be 5 1/4 on the long side. And then we're going to be at 4 on the shorter side. And there we go. At least when I trim off, you know, with my scissors, when I turn it over and cut with my scissors, I don't always get a perfectly straight line. And by doing this, I get a perfectly straight edge. The other thing you could do is you could do it all in one step. You could turn it over. You can use your ruler and your knife or your rotary cutter and trim it all at once. Just it just depends on what you feel more comfortable with. And also, I didn't mention this before because, I was really trying to emphasize that you want to make sure you reach edge to edge. If you're trimming off the edge, like you're trimming off 1/8 of an inch and your strip doesn't quite come, you have less than 1/8 of an inch, you don't have to worry about filling up that space. If you're trimming off 1/4 and it doesn't come, you have a little space at the top, the bottom, the sides, you don't have to cover up that little tiny area. So you've got these, our gray pieces with those stripes. What's left is tiny, which is why we want to make sure that adhesive, we have that adhesive sheet underneath so our little pieces stick really well. Okay, so we're going to attach this to our card. And this one, we don't have an extra panel. We're just going to attach it to our card. So on this, this is when you want to decide, do you want your square? Remember, we're going to put our flower over the square. So do you want it more to the top and the left, or do you want it more, turn it around and want it more towards the right and the bottom? And I think I want it more this way. So I'm going to turn it that way. Put my adhesive around the edges of the back. And just attach that to the front of the card centered. Don't lose your sentiment. And now we're going to color and cut out our flowers. I used colored pencils to color these. You can use markers or shimmer brushes. I think shimmer brushes would be really pretty. I couldn't get them to you in time, so I did not use any. But if you wanted to, any coloring medium you want. I didn't stamp my big flower really well, so I stamped it again on the back. So I'm just going to trim that out. Yours should all be okay. All right, so I'm going to color my big one first. And I really just used two different colors on these. I used a pale pink and I used green. And let me pull the card out. I'll put them all out so you can see them. Although really, wow, you really can't see that pink from down there. So as you can see, I didn't color in the whole flower. I colored in areas of the flower. So I picked mostly all of the skinny areas, and I colored those in. And then in a couple of other spots, I like this wider area. Can you see that? I just colored a strip of color towards the line there. And up here in this wider spot, I added a strip of pink there. So, I mean, you could color it solid if you want, but I thought it was interesting to just color certain areas. And if you wanted to, I mean, you could color the whole thing pink and then add accents of a darker pink if you liked, or um, really any color. I was going to, not that there's our papers are pink and white and black and gray. I guess you could add some gray to it. You could make it you don't have to color it all. You could just leave it a black and white flower. You could just use a clear shimmer. Whatever you'd like. I didn't think when I was doing this, but we do have some metallic pens. And since there is some metallic in the paper, you could always use some of that to add some metallic accents, like on the paper. This is an older stamp set. It's called Wavy Blooms. It's not available anymore, but it looked just like the poppy, so I felt that I wanted to use it. Although we always have beautiful floral stamp sets, and if you're looking for one in particular, let me know, and I'll see what I can do. It's the end of February. Tomorrow's March 1st, so our catalog is only good. Our seasonal catalog is good for one more month. It's good until the end of March. So if there's anything in it that you wanted, just make sure you keep an eye on that date. There are a couple more products I am going to use from that catalog, and the classes will be scheduled after the catalog is no longer live. So I will let you know ahead of time in case you wanted to order extra supplies if you were going to take the classes. Or I'll say I'm planning on doing that. If I do that, I'll let you know. You know how the plans change sometimes. I just lost my train of thought. I don't know. Oh, that's it. This March stamp of the month. So it's So it's the last day of February. So it's the last day to get the February stamp of the month. But starting tomorrow, you can get the March stamp of the month, which is adorable. It has koalas and kangaroos, so you know I am getting it. So if you were um, looking to do some shopping and get that stamp of the month, also. Um, uh, March starts. Sorry, my brain's going in a million different directions. March starts Stamptacular month, which means all of the stamp sets, all of our current stamp sets are on sale. Um, so it's a good time to purchase some stamps if you were looking to do so. All right, so now I'm just going to get a light green and color these leaves. And I'm just coloring them in pale. I really don't want, although I do want them to be green, I don't want the focus to be on the leaves. Okay, so that is how I colored that one. All right, now I'm gonna color the medium flower, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna just pick some of the areas to color in and leave the other ones white. I have my Easter card class coming up on March 21st. I'll show you the samples when we're done with these cards here, in case you have didn't get the email or didn't get a chance to look at it yet. And then I also have the next card class. I'm really trying um, to set the schedule ahead of time so you guys know what's coming up and I know what's coming up. So I have the next class after that set too, which will be on April 4th. It was funny. I thought I had time for the Easter cards. I was going to do the other one first. And then I looked at the calendar and it was like, oh, yeah, no, Easter is coming up because it's the end of February already. I don't know how that happened. Okay, so, and now I'm going to color in the center of the flower, and I'm going to stick with the same pink, but I'm going to put a little more pressure on my pencil and make it a little darker pink. I don't know. I think this set of flowers is supposed to be the stamps are supposed to be poppy. Obviously, they're artistic. They took an artistic license with them. But this one is a little different looking. So I don't know. Is this supposed to be a poppy? Is it supposed to be a different kind of poppy? What would be the center color of this flower? I don't know. When I'm coloring my stamped flowers, I don't really always look for realism anyway, but okay. So that's that. Whoops, that's that one. And I am gonna color in the leaves next. Again, just like I did on the first one, I'm just gonna color them this pale green. And there we go. And now we have our three little flowers. They don't have any leaves, so it's just the pink. And again, I'm just going to color different areas. And I'm not going to worry about each of them being the same either. There's a special right now, a special promotion. It's called Daisy Daisy. There is a paper pack and a stamp set and some die cuts that are very beautiful. And I think I'm going to do a class with those. Um, those products have been selling very, very quickly. So if you think you are interested in any of them, um, be sure to take a look, and you can see them if you go to my website and you click on the promotions uh, tab, and then Daisy Daisy is the name of it. There's also a link to it in the last couple of emails I sent. So if you are interested in those supplies, um, make sure you shop and order very soon because they've already sold out of some of them and have had to wait for reorders. So I know the rest of it is going to sell out. And don't wait for when I schedule my class, if until you take the class, because they won't be available then. I know it's tough when I can't get them ahead of time, and I'm not the best of scheduling in a timely manner, but I know a lot of you just take the class and then you make the card kits, but every once in a while you want some of the extra supplies. Of course, I'm always willing to let you borrow my stamps and um, die cuts if you wanted to too. The paper is more of a problem, of course, because once it's gone, it's gone. Okay. So I colored those in. And now we're just going to cut them all out. And we're going to cut them out like we always do, leaving a 16th to an 1/8 inch of a white border around. Sorry, I'm just trying to clean up some of my supplies here, make room. Leaving a 16th of an inch to an 1/8 inch white border around each of the images. Doesn't have to be precise because the person viewing it won't measure. They'll just be happy to get the beautiful card. Well, if you can part with it anyway. I am going around this. There are a couple of areas where there spaces between the petals here, bigger areas, and you can cut those out if you want to. I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it relatively rounded. I did wiggle around the outside of the flower, but I'm just going to leave it like that. And you can see that I did that on this card. I did not cut into these areas. I didn't feel they were big enough to worry about. When I attach these to the card, I am going to use foam tape. As always, if you don't like using the dimensional tape, you can always attach them flat as well. I did not, you know, I love the sparkles, but I did not add gems to these cards because I thought with the glitter paper, um, it didn't need extra gems, but of course you are always, um, they, I'm sure on some papers, some designs, that would look beautiful. I'm going to separate each of these smaller flowers to cut around. I find it easier to cut out of a smaller piece of cardstock than the larger piece. We've got a lot of coloring in the next couple of classes. I used markers in the Easter card class, but of course you can use colored pencils if you prefer. I'll tell you which color markers I'm going to use or I did use the alcohol markers. I will tell you which colors I've used if you're interested in them, but you are welcome to use your own markers or, like I said, colored pencils if you want. In the class after that, I actually used watercolors, so I'm going to teach you a little bit. I am not an expert, but I will teach you what I know about watercoloring. I had a lot of fun with that. But again, if you don't want watercolors, you can use pencils or markers. I just like to mix it up a little so you guys get a variety of what you see and you can decide what you want to try. With the watercolors, if you don't own watercolors and you do want to try watercolors and you want to purchase them, let me know, because I can get you those ahead of class as long as I have fair warning on that. But I am not going to include that in the class price or anything. It'll be up to you if you want to do that. But because I know not everybody will want a watercolor, or a lot of people have their own already. So I'm just grabbing my foam tape. So I am going to put foam tape on all of the flowers, but my sentiment I'm going to put on flat. So I'm just going to put foam tape on all of them while I have them all here. That was the one I just had an issue stamping. So that's why that's on the back of that one. The card class I'll show you that I watercolored too. I think, and I'm going to make a set of these so you can see what they look like. I think they'd actually be beautiful. Just left stamped in black and do black and white on the pattern paper. I think that might look nice too. So I'm going to, I had that idea after I put the samples together. So I'm going to try that so you can see what they look like. Could always mix and match them too, color some of them, not others. So these smaller flowers, I'm just putting 2 pieces of tape on each of them, but the bigger flowers, I'm putting more since they're a larger image. Actually, this one I think I might put a 3rd piece on because I cut the tape smaller. Go. I know some people like to put huge pieces of tape on. I use a lot of smaller pieces. The person I learned from used the tiniest little pieces. So I kind of picked it up from her, but I don't use pieces as small as she did because my fingers are not as tiny as hers are. Apparently we have some missing colored pencils. Okay, I'm just lifting my garbage can up so I can take the backing pieces off all my foam tape. And I'm going to take the backing off of all 5 flowers all at once here. Okay, so this would be an example. Here's my backing paper from my adhesive sheet. I can stick that on there and temporarily, and it'll just stick on there. Now, I'm just going to put them upside down, but if you, I don't know, didn't finish making the card and you had to go eat dinner and you didn't want to leave this there, because let me tell you, how many times I've put something upside down like this that was sticky on my table, and then somehow, oh, I'm being so careful, but somehow I accidentally put something on top of it. You know how it is. Okay, so now I have all my foam tape exposed. And we'll put our little flowers on first because that one doesn't have a sentiment. And I'm going to put the center one on first, and I'm just going to center it over the black strip and center it on the card. And then for the top and bottom one, I'm just going to, again, center it left to right over the strip, but then top to bottom, center it in the spacing you have left. And I did not do a good job of centering that first one. Put it a little too low. Okay. And that's all you need to do to finish that card. And again, this one was with the V, the point of the V at the top of the card, and this one, whoops, is the top or the V towards the bottom of the card, the point of the V towards the bottom of the card. All right, and then we'll do our square card, our pinwheel card. And I am going to put, I'm going to take my sentiment. It's the one that says, do what makes you happy. I am going to go ahead and put adhesive on the back of that. I am going to hold my flower over the square, and I'm going to kind of put my sentiment, stick it under the flower. I just want to make sure that gets attached first because I know I have foam tape on the back of this. And I'm going to put that where I like it, and then put my flower down. And I can actually see that pink? That's part of the square. It's okay if it part of it shows. That's why we used a color that coordinated. And that's that one. And then on our long card, again, I am going to put adhesive on the back of my sentiment, which says laugh as much as you breathe. And once again, I'm going to hover with my flower. I want the flower in the bottom right corner. The sentiment, I'm going to center the black strip on, or the black rectangle of the sentiment over the black strip, top to bottom. But I want to see placement where I put my flower. And then I'm going to, when I get them both in a position I like, press them both down. And those are our 3 quilt cards. I really hope you enjoyed the process, and I can't wait to see what other cards you make with your scraps. If you come up with a good storage method for your scraps, let us know, because everybody's always looking for ideas for that. And I'm just getting the other card samples out to show you. Okay, so these are the Easter cards. The chicks and eggs, I called them. So we've got this cute little chick, and we've got that cute little chick, and we've got the egg with lots of sparkles. This class, you're actually going to get 2 kits. You'll make 2 of each of the 3 cards. And this is on March 21st. And like I said, I colored with markers. You can use colored pencils or markers or watercolors or whatever you like. And then this is I'm calling it Trees and Homes. This is 4 different cards, 1 of each. Trying to see if I can balance them all in my hands here. I watercolored these, and you can use whatever color method you want. If you don't like the sentiments, like you might not have the need for congratulations on your new home or a family tree card, you'll certainly be able to change out those sentiments. But I think they're good cards for any occasion. Doesn't have to be a new home card. They're just lovely images. So this is on April 4th. And I know I haven't, have I ever, did I put them on the, Yeah, I did. I think I put them on the I wasn't going to advertise it at first, and I was like, oh, just do it. So that's why I'm confused. Okay, so let me know if you want to take either of those. Thank you so much for making some quilt cards with me. And as always, if you have any questions, let me know. The video will stay up. And I hope to see you soon. Oh, and give me a thumbs up if you get a chance. Thanks, and take care.